From a real-life case of the Russian sleep experiments documented on YouTube, an Instagram rabbit hole that leads to a woman's amputated legs, a mall roof collapsing in on a family's day out, to a narco-influencer's last YouTube video ever posted. All this and more on this disturbing internet and YouTube media iceberg. The mall ceiling collapsed. Imagine it's your day off and you just want to relax and go to the mall for some shopping with the family, and after stop by the food court and pick something delicious to eat. It seems like it's going to be a good normal day, until you hear some rumbling and look up, only to see that the ceiling is falling towards you and your loved ones. Powerless to what's coming, this is what happened at the Rio Plaza Trujillo shopping center in Peru. Though this beautiful food court looked nice and maintained, beautiful design honestly, it was only an illusion of safety, making all the families feel okay with being in there. They trust that the project manager that constructed the building actually did their job right and didn't cut corners to save money, although that ceiling could cave in at any second. I mean, if I went to Peru and saw that they had a Popeyes, Papa John's, and a movie theater in the mall, I would be like, wow, this is so American. I trust being in this place somewhat. I wouldn't expect it to collapse because it's just not too sketchy. They also had a family entertainment type mini park named Mr. Joy, where they offer small rides and have other fun activities. Just checking out their YouTube channel, you can tell how creative they had to get with so little space they had to work with, which explains why so many families and young people were at that mall when this occurred, and makes this case even more of a tragedy. They even had their own mascot, just a dude in glasses named Mr. Joy. Family outings shouldn't be regretted, but in this case, they were. On the night of February 21st, 2025, Rio Plaza Trujillo was doing what malls are built to do, pulling in families, kids, date nights, people killing time under the bright mall lights, until the building itself turned into the story of the year in Peru. Around 8:40 p.m., the roof structure over the food court came down in a sudden, violent collapse that also hit the children's play area, dropping debris across the space that moments earlier was just noise and dinner and laughter. The confirmed toll later rose to 8 dead, including children, and dozens injured, with reporting describing a collapse spanning roughly hundreds of square meters, followed by frantic searches and dust clouds. A lady tells a reporter that her family members, 35-year-old John Chavez, 25-year-old Daniela de la Cruz, and niece Alicia, only 2 years old, were in the mall when the collapse occurred, and that they weren't picking up the phone, nor were they checked into any nearby hospitals. They were gone for hours, never returning home, most likely located underneath the rubble, she cries. One girl that was there at the scene of this collapse was able to film herself being stuck within the debris that fell and then being rescued. You could also hear the screams of a man yelling out for help in the background. In the end, authorities were able to confirm that the lady's relatives had indeed passed away in the collapse. The mother of the 25-year-old Daniela de la Cruz, who had gone to the mall with her husband and kid, yelled out to the media that she needs their support to get justice for what they had done to her family, stating that the only thing they wanted to do was shop and take the kid to have some fun and eat at the food court. It shouldn't have ended this way. Another family tries to look for their male family member, Christopher Rodriguez Cruz, rushing to the scene. They talk through a gate anxiously. The father asks if his son is still alive. The woman responds that he is alive, but that his right leg had to be removed in order to save his life, as it was crushed by a large piece of metal during the collapse. The father is left shocked but relieved, and his other son tries to calm him down, reacting to the news. In the end, it turns out that they were closed in late December 2023 after municipal observations about the electrical system, including officials saying that they found electrical panels in bad condition. Then the mall reopened in January 2024 after Rio Plaza described the issues as quote-unquote minor observations and said everything was in perfect condition. A municipal commission's final report argued the disaster was avoidable and pointed to problems dating back to the 2016 construction, including design issues that made inspection/maintenance of the round design difficult. It was also suggested that the roof may have collapsed due to the heavy water that was accumulating there, as there was no proper working drainage system that served efficiently. This message is sponsored by Raycon. New year, new earbuds. I've been using these ever since they arrived on my daily nature walks, and I have to say they're perfect for those that are constantly on the move. Raycon's essential open earbuds don't block out everything like ordinary earbuds, making me feel more safe as I could hear the things going on around me. While either listening to my podcasts or music, I can clearly hear my media playing and be focused on it while also being aware of the outside. And right now, Raycon is ringing in the new year with a sale, so it's a perfect time to grab them and help support the channel. These Raycons are so light and comfy I can barely tell that they're even there, and it doesn't fall out. They sit on my ears perfectly for long sessions, even when moving a lot. As someone who produces a lot of annoying earwax, the open ear design is a lifesaver, gently resting outside my ear canal, giving a clear sound, allowing me to take full advantage of the 8 hours of playtime and 36 hours of battery with the charging case. They also easily pair up to my device and are easy to use as well, double tapping to play the next song on my playlist, and 4 taps to pick a sound profile, like balanced sound. The essential open earbuds are here to help you crush your new year goals. Click the link in the description box or go to buyraycon.com/bookofaliceopen to get 20% off site-wide. And thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video. El Pirata de Culiacán, the Pirate of Culiacan, was the online nickname of Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales, a Mexican teen who blew up on social media for his daily drinking habits and crazy partying. People his age loved watching him as he had a goofy personality, saying anything that came to mind without caring about the opinions of other people, talking trash about anyone. He would also kind of roleplay as a rich narco kid, posing with expensive guns and driving nice vehicles, even playing with exotic animals like a tiger. He was well connected due to his viral videos that had been seen all over Mexico. He would also do big lines of coke on video later in his career, not the drink, which even further pushed him to fame. This time, even throughout Latin America, he looked like a spoiled rich kid with a narco dad, getting anything he wanted and giving us a sneak peek into the narco lifestyle online. But what people didn't know was that he was actually born into severe poverty. His dad left his mother before he was even born, and she would end up leaving him and his sister too, getting a family member to pick them up. Maria Rosales Torres, his grandmother, would be the one to take the responsibility. Without any income, she began selling food on the streets and working in the farm fields picking fruit to support the kids. At around 12 years old, Juan Luis would help his grandmother out selling food on the streets as he didn't really like school, dropping out in 7th grade middle school. This would land him with the bad crowd of kids in his vicinity and lead him down the road of many vices, ending up in a rehab at age 13 and then running away to Culiacan, Mexico because he didn't want to be locked up again in a rehab. Some rehab centers in Mexico are known for involuntary admissions, especially the informal/underground ones called anexos, where they kidnap you off the streets and then force you to stay at the rehab center. In his new life in Culiacan, he would just do odd jobs like cleaning the windows of random strangers, stopped at traffic, and organizing chairs at large party venues in the city. But he wanted to be a rich kid the entire time, the one that flexed the lifestyle funded by cartel money. Though he never really got accepted into one, they thought he was just a little kid that was getting too ahead of himself. He would end up making friends in the scene and would be invited to club parties everywhere throughout Sinaloa, just getting hammered at 14 years of age. He was a known binge drinker by that point. One day, one of his boys decided to film him downing a bottle, and that is where it all started. His online presence skyrocketed because of that one video, showing him at first looking fine, then getting absolutely wrecked, but still coherent in some videos where we could see his personality shine on full display. He got chattier towards the camera, and his fan base got even stronger, being used as a meme people could relate to, until they couldn't anymore. In one of his viral drunken rants, he decides to call out one of the most powerful cartel leaders in Mexico, El Mencho, who the United States has a $15 million bounty out for. El Pirata would tell him, "Suck my yeah," in the video. One person near him even tells him to chill out, knowing the power that the cartel has. The video unfortunately went viral, and many people in the comments were warning El Pirata to watch his back, as he had now become a target. Though he went on and lived life like normal, making his final online presence on a vlog with YouTuber Hot Spanish, where he just chills with the guy and then throws his girlfriend's phone off the balcony for being on it too long. They then made plans to head over to a bar, Mentados Cantados, where they were planning to start off the night of partying. Getting drinks like regular, he thought it would be another normal night, until the group heard commotion in the front of the bar. El Pirata on his phone in the corner was the target, being shot 15 times. He passed away, and someone at the scene had taken a picture of his body, quickly spreading on social media, showing how sad and dark his final moments were. He had passed at 17 years old. Rumors began to circulate that it was for sure Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, the cartel that El Mencho ran, carrying out the mission to show what disrespecting the cartel gets you. Double R, a member of the cartel, had supposedly climbed the ranks because of this mission he had completed, becoming a leader in the group, and this was spreading around town, tying him to the case. Of course, he wasn't caught because police are paid off. There is also another theory that the YouTuber Hot Spanish had something to do with his location being found out so quickly. The theory puts forth that Hot Spanish was not a victim in the shooting because he had tipped them off for a price. His retelling of what happened that night is also in conflict with the story the smaller YouTuber Ben El Gringo, who was there at the scene, gave to the media. They would also talk about him like he was a stranger in interviews after the fact, giving more to the theorists that believed El Pirata was set up. Kelly Ronahan's dark Instagram rabbit hole. Kelly Ronahan takes to her social media, posting a video in tears where she complains that the only drug that they are giving her for her pain is a cut-in-half baby aspirin. Although it may look like she's just exaggerating and we are peeking in without any context, maybe she's addicted to pain meds, maybe she doesn't really require the meds because doctors don't have a reason to justify giving her something stronger, until she points the camera down towards her body, revealing she had her legs amputated, and that was the reason why she's in massive amounts of pain and in bed. The pain scale is worthless if you yell out that you're at a 10 and they don't believe you, she states. As shown by her colorful, self-described crazy cat lady Insta, she was a full-time ballet instructor. Her passion drove her life, and it looked like she was on an honest and right path for a meaningful and successful career in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, until in the mid-2010s, after a blood test, her life was interrupted by a revelation. Her health was not doing great. Severe anemia, a common blood condition where your blood lacks enough healthy red blood cells, or hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen from your lungs to your body, requiring frequent blood transfusions, posting on Insta that she may have sickle cell anemia, but that she truly has no clue, and that her male specialist is no help, claiming that they told her it is what it is when she received her diagnosis, and that they will wait to see what happens. Kelly states that she may just end up dying, and wants to transfer to a better doctor in Vancouver, Canada. In late 2015 and early 2016, coverage quoted her and summarized that she'd been receiving transfusions sometimes as often as weekly and had accumulated dozens of transfusions over roughly 2 years, with Ronahan emphasizing how dependent she was on donated blood. Throughout this time, she would claim to know the real disease that was causing this pain in her life, claiming to have multiple sclerosis, a chronic disease of the central nervous system. She was even asking for a certain medical procedure, which involved in removing her uterus, believing that it was where the problem stemmed from, that it was secretly killing her, and claiming that the doctor thought this may be the issue as well, but there was no proof, only photos and her long captions that were posted all throughout her Instagram wall. Gaining a decent following on her page, people wanted to keep up on her journey, full of sympathizers wishing her the best and donators actually contributing to her health. July 15th, 2016, a strange post was made. This time, it did not capture her in a hospital room hooked up to a machine, but instead she was on her 2 feet, heading out the door of a hospital with her caption reading, "Guys, I couldn't stay anymore. I was too far gone in my head. I snowballed everything that was said, read between lines, and made false assumptions, but either way, it was no longer okay to be there. There were questions about my bladder retention being due to anxiety. I took that as they think I'm faking it. The nurse that was trying to use, I was getting sicker. I stopped drinking because I feared I wouldn't be assisted. Honestly, all of the other nurses were so kind and understanding, but with such a sensitive issue, even one foul play scared me. The doctor couldn't figure out the seizures. They believed it might be from a medication I'd been on for years." Her followers sided with her, agreeing that the medical systems are bad and don't understand their patients. This did end up triggering a snowball effect of skepticism, as she hadn't posted anything like this before, with one person questioning how her hemoglobin levels dropped so fast overnight with no source of any bleeding or nothing. Had she been finally exposed for faking her illness for social media fame and money? The pictures posted on her Insta sometimes had her arms out in the open, revealing that she had self-harm marks on them that she said were from mental health issues she faced in the past. They were just puffy at the time, according to her, explaining why they may have looked newer, which could be true, but pairing this up to her anemia issues, many concluded that she was doing it on purpose to get the medical results she wanted. My port has been sore and slightly inflamed since last Wednesday. Blood transfusion. Last night it started hurting really bad and I have had a fever. Unfortunately, I looked at some things in the internet and scared myself silly about sepsis. So I came into the ER this morning. Not only is my port not flushing, but it has a pocket infection. It is now swelling and has outgrown my boob. Not a big feat. I am waiting for antibiotics and then I get to go home. On Tuesday, during my usual transfusion, someone from vascular will come assist me and decide what to do next. What commonly happens with pocket infections is that the port needs to be removed. This would be 2 surgeries because I would need a new port, but in the other side of my chest. It looked like her health was actively declining, getting multiple infections in her port and having to get them replaced. Until one of her visits ended up breaking her narrative. In the efforts to get a procedure done on her, blood work was taken once again. The results were shocking. Her hemoglobin levels were back to normal, to a healthy level, explaining to the nurse that she didn't think this was correct, as she still felt weak and sick, demanding another test be done, as the first one was totally incorrect. Her post reads, "I was not feeling good." He said, "Well, we're not too concerned about it." I said, "Well, I know my body and I have been managing the symptoms for over 3 years. He rolled his eyes at me and said, "Well, we have the test results." So I then said, "I still think they are wrong. I really want a second test." He said, "Regardless of your blood work today, you're not getting your blood transfusion." Okay, so I guess I am a blood seeker, a freaking blood addicted junkie trying to weasel her way into a psychedelic blood transfusion. OMG, he left. I was in tears. I went through the procedure and recovery, etc. And as soon as I was discharged, I went to the lab for a blood test on my own. I have standing orders. I got the results today. As I suspected, the blood test was inaccurate by 15 points. So were her doctors secretly conspiring against her in order to save the hospital money and not treat her, therefore risking their reputation and a lawsuit to stop Kelly from being healthy? That was the framing she had been pushing in her posts. It was Kelly versus the world of medical experts. Munchausen syndrome is an older label for a mental health condition where someone deceives others by pretending to be sick or deliberately causing symptoms/injury to themselves in order to stay in the quote-unquote sick role. With this, they could use people by gaining their sympathy. This label was used on Kelly by many online followers of her life, and you truly had to be a follower to keep up with her 3,000 plus posts. Over time, her online presence became inseparable from the intense internet scrutiny. Communities dedicated to calling out suspected illness faking fixated on her posts, leading to the end of Ranahan's story, which spiraled into a mix of sympathy and harassment that played out across platforms. Then, suddenly, she didn't need transfusions anymore. 2018 marked the end of her anemia symptoms.
Hey guys, thanks for being concerned. I'm doing a lot better right now.
But it also marked the start of a new problem she had in her body, which is arguably far worse, posting her swollen feet and hands. "I have no idea what this is all about. I see a doctor this afternoon." She also had discoloration and what looked like bruises in many photos. One thing to know is that during this time, in the in-between behind the scenes that she was posting, it looked like she was just wanting to live a normal life almost, singing in her car. You can see someone who just wanted attention and you almost feel bad about all those comments saying she was faking it. She was put on antibiotics for eczema. It is a deeper ulcer-like form of impetigo, a bacterial skin infection that goes past the very top layer of skin. It usually starts as a small blister or pimple and then turns into a punched-out sore with a thick crust. It ends up not helping at all, and through the looks of these pictures, it seems to have progressed. I cannot show them. Let's just say it triggers my trypophobia. Her doctor ends up re-diagnosing her with something else completely, Behçet syndrome, a rare, painful chronic inflammatory disorder causing blood vessel inflammation. It's just all downhill now, and you could see it on her face as the posts go by through time. Needing surgeries and medication, her legs were losing skin, but eventually everything stabilized, or at least it seemed like it, and she was back to recovery. Taking a walk for the first time in a while, big smile on her face. The only thing stopping her was herself at that point. as the doctors advised against touching the surgical site and picking at it, a habit that didn't end up dying, as she would be back in the hospital again in 2021, not listening to her doctors. She was indeed picking at the surgical site. Just scrolling, you will see how her legs get worse and worse as time goes on, even facing potential removal of her Instagram account due to the graphic photos she was uploading onto the site of her leg wounds. Real life situation, please don't delete my account. IG, please let me stay. I get so much support here. If this gets reported, my whole account will be deleted. There's nothing explicit about it at all. All this until her doctors most likely had no choice but to go for an amputation. Both of Kelly's legs were amputated, a life-changing event. It makes sense why her accounts completely stopped posting around 2021. Even though she may receive a lot of hate because of this, it's all just sad, and you can't help but feel bad for someone who has to go this far to feel comfortable in their brain. Sister Hong. This story rings something like a Black Mirror episode where we are confronted with what is the frontier of the darkest things on the internet. It's 2022. Sister Hong was the name of an online dating profile that many men had scrolled by and decided to interact with in Nanjing, China, population 9 million. Quickly gaining popularity on the app, getting matches, they wanted to meet up in real life. Though her profile pics were slightly unsettling, somehow guys wanted to come over to Sister Hong's place and have a jolly old time, despite her strange look. But what the guys didn't know was that she was actually playing a game with their life. She had hid a camera in her room that she had invited all the guys to and saved the footage of their intimate moments, selling it to people over Telegram. It was a popular niche that people paid to get access to, and like any business, she had to keep her fans happy to keep the money flowing. One thing that she made sure of was to keep the lights on. Even though some guys didn't like that aspect, she wouldn't budge. They had to be on, and also when they came over, they had to have a present in hand, often food related. From cooking oil to a watermelon, Sister Hong needed to fill her kitchen, or it was just a power move. Hundreds of these videos were uploaded by Sister Hong until eventually they began to leak all over the place. Internet detectives took charge in trying to identify the men in these videos and found great success. Some stayed quiet while others went to the public, calling them out on social media for cheating on their partners or for just meeting up with a woman in the first place. They were exposed online for friends and family to see, which is just really embarrassing. Sister Hong's antics ruined countless lives, not only the men she interacted with. Soon enough, people became familiar with the faces in the videos and found that many men were just regulars of her business, and they still had no idea they were being recorded and uploaded for the world to see. But even stranger was the way Sister Hong would act on camera, always masked up and pale, wearing heavy clothing that was not revealing even slightly, leading many to suspect that it was actually a man dressed in women's clothing tricking these guys, and this theory was confirmed by Sister Hong directly, though she strictly kept it a secret from the men, with one guy even finding out and leaving the place scared, to then returning back to the room and trying to get a good look at Sister Hong's face to see if he wanted to stay or not, I guess. Popularity got to them, and eventually Sister Hong was investigated by local authorities, leading to no new update on her side, until a report from Jiangning police was published, revealing that Sister Hong was actually a 38-year-old male that was pretending to be a woman to have meetups with men that he met over dating apps, filming them without their consent. Sister Hong's name was quickly changed to Uncle Red, and on Chinese social media platforms, her videos blew up again and became memes that people would copy. It was the Sister Hong challenge. It became part of mainstream Chinese culture to crack jokes about the matter. The Russian sleep experiment in real life. Fatal insomnia is a rare progressive brain disease where the key problem is damage to the thalamus, a deep brain relay that helps regulate sleep, alertness, and autonomic functions. Despite the name, it's not regular insomnia that just gets really bad. It's a neurodegenerative prion disease that disrupts the brain's ability to generate normal sleep and maintain stable body regulation, and it is ultimately fatal. There's no proven cure or disease-stopping therapy right now. Fatal insomnia usually doesn't show up in childhood or as a lifelong bad sleeper situation. Most cases begin in mid-adulthood, often somewhere in the 40s to 60s, not only affecting sleep, but overall brain function, causing chaos in the body. And it starts off like regular not being able to sleep type symptoms, but with time it spirals into not being able to sleep at all. Reported survival after symptom onset is often around 1 to 3 years on average, though ranges vary across series. Ricard Siagian was able to document this progression and post the videos onto YouTube, but he didn't start off with content like this. He was a healthy man with a deep love and interest in art, as seen in his multiple videos where he draws. His sketches consist of tattoo designs with a blend of indigenous design. Born in September of 1968 in the town of Balija, Sumatra, Indonesia, he would move to the United States of America in pursuit for better educational and career opportunities. But like most immigrants, this was a big feat and needed money now. This was 2008, working at a chocolate factory and then Whole Foods in Philadelphia in Pennsylvania state. By 2013, he had his own art project he would work on onto the side, posting his tattoo artwork on his YouTube channel. His artistic inspiration came from the people he was raised by, the Batak peoples of North Sumatra, Indonesia. It's best thought of as a whole system of art tied to ceremony, ancestry, and protection. His son would also appear in his videos, clearly important to his life. January 7th of 2016, his video description reads, "Hi, my name is Ricard Siagian. I have been suffering from a health condition caused by heavy neurotoxic protocol that's causing damage to my system, such as mitochondria depletion. But the most debilitating and certainly life-threatening condition from it is complete inability to sleep. This tragedy happened last summer, August 2015, in the United States after taking 2 weeks course of 13,000 milligram fluoride and genotype toxic-based antibiotic. I can't mention the medicine name here to avoid discomfort for the third party. I guess many of you have guessed it, but if you want to know, you can email me personally. And around the same time as this tragedy, I had to go back home to Indonesia for family emergency. My mother was hospitalized and later passed away. Now I am stuck to bedridden stage from this condition. My complete inability to sleep and other complications from this poison has pushed me down to a very rock bottom, physically and mentally and financially. This tragedy stole my life, my son, my shape, my family, my dream, my future, and my real positive personality. Only one thing that I could wish as my last hope is pluripotent stem cell treatment. But the challenge is money. Since this injury happened, my brain become wild awake 24/7 for a year now, and I have lost natural sleeping onset because of the failure to register." The video consists of him talking to the camera, explaining with tears in his eyes that he needs urgent help as he cannot sleep, and his speech shows it as he stumbles over words and takes a while to process his thoughts. He ends up explaining that in August 2015, in Philadelphia, he developed a UTI, and his new boss at the time, knowing Ricard didn't have health insurance, gave him old antibiotics that were prescribed to him that he never ended up using. The first day that he took these antibiotics, he felt better, but by day 2, he started feeling bad again, experiencing heart palpitations, and one of his hands contracted and went stiff. Knowing you are not supposed to suddenly stop taking these antibiotics you started, he soldiered on, thinking it was just a side effect he had to deal with. He ultimately did take all of the pills after a couple of weeks, thinking it would clear his UTI, but resulted in him not being able to get any sleep. He noticed that after stopping the medication, he couldn't sleep at all. In the midst of this health problem, he received a call that would just add to the stress. His mother was sick and dying from a chronic condition back in his home country, Indonesia. Missing his father's death, he knew he couldn't do that again to his parents and left the States to visit her. On that visit, he would take advantage of the healthcare he had there and went to find out what was wrong with him at the hospital. They ended up just prescribing him benzos to fall asleep, but when taking it, he found that it was only powerful enough to knock him out for about 2 hours. And those 2 hours, he said, felt like a coma, completely knocked out, and the nightmares that came along with it were traumatizing. After 4 months on the benzos, he refused to take any more, as he now had severe anxiety and he knew how dangerous the drug could be long term. Ricard knew he was going to die soon and begged any doctor out there to help treat him and or use his body after he was gone to study the degenerative part of his brain that isn't allowing him to sleep, explaining that his body sort of shocked him, causing pain until waking up when trying to fall asleep, and that his mind wouldn't turn off. Also in the video, he puts forth his plan to not only try to reach out to the media to try to get their attention and get a story out there, but to also document his journey as it progresses, getting worse for other people to witness. In his first updates, he complains of spine pain and vertigo, saying that for hours at a time, he feels as if he's free falling from a high building, showing off his skin shedding a lot more than usual, and noting that it's most likely his cells dying as he cannot get a full night's rest. He also seems to have aged noticeably compared to his initial video. Conspiracy Theory Fact was one video where you could tell his mind is also going, but is still there to talk about interesting things, where he starts off by defining conspiracy theories as not a true theory, but a term that the powerful use to refute facts as something crazy or foolish, stating that conspiracies are in practice everywhere, that the illusion that we call everyday life, normal life, going to work, paying taxes, electing a president, is just not real life. They are just norms we have ultimately accepted as truth, and I think this was his revelation, an epiphany he had as he laid there on his deathbed. Apart from this, he posted a lot of trying to sleep videos where he attempts to get some rest, constantly disrupted by his own mind. The 3rd of November 2016, he gives us an update. Nothing is helping him. He is bedrotting and wants to end it, but says he doesn't have the will to do it just yet. A few posts later, he tries to explain why humans are here on Earth and draws the solar system, explaining that all the holy books like the Christian Bible and Quran tell us the same story, that we are not originally from Earth and came from outer space, specifically Planet X, but others have different names for the planet, and that NASA is trying to hide evidence of this. The Nibiru or Planet X theory is a modern doomsday story that claims a hidden planet or brown dwarf-like object is on a secret, highly elongated orbit and will eventually swing into the inner solar system to cause catastrophe, either by colliding with Earth or passing close enough to trigger earthquakes, tsunamis, and a pole shift. He then shows us all the sleep aid he had taken prescribed by a doctor and says it doesn't work on him as he doesn't have classical fatal insomnia, stating once again that he is on death's door. Message to neurologist. In this video, he recaps a story about taking the antibiotics that his boss gave him because he didn't have health insurance and needed to pay rent instead. It's meant to be sent to a neurologist in China that says he has treated patients like him before and had a successful outcome. This encouraged Ricard enough to open up a GoFundMe campaign to save his life, but it didn't end up getting much traction. This video just once again shows that money could have saved his life in a healthcare system that doesn't prioritize the poor. Instead of taking care of his health, he had to focus on paying rent and making ends meet with his son. His final 3 videos were titled What is God?, HIV Fact, and The Bending of the Law by the Government and Lawyers. A lot of people say he was losing his mind in these final videos, but I think he just wanted to get things off his chest before passing away. He was a smart man and was able to convey his message in English, even if it was a second language he had to learn. In the video, What is God?, he tells us that God could mean many things depending on the person's perspective. In his perspective, God is the universe, proceeding to ask big questions like, what is outside the known universe? In the HIV fact, he brings up the theory that it was a man-made virus created by a big pharma mafia, all legally allowed to be run by big governments. Finally, in the last video posted to his channel titled The Bending of Law by the Government and Lawyers, he asks a question that sounds hypothetical, but it also sounds like he's trying to get legal advice in order to get the green light to do one big final act to get money and send it to his son. He asks the question, if a British person smuggles drugs into Indonesia, would they have to be sentenced to death just like any other person would be sentenced to if they were found guilty, or would the British government have to step in and say no, you cannot sentence them that harshly? It's kinda sounding like a Breaking Bad type plan he has in his head, mentioning that what if theoretically they don't transfer cash to make it cleaner and instead give you a luxury car, specifically stating a Maybach Excelero. Then the video ends. Was he totally insane? I don't know. One thing out of all of this info that stood out was the fact that he wanted to make sure that everyone knew that this wasn't a classic case of fatal insomnia, but instead was triggered by an antibiotic medication he had taken and crossed the blood-brain barrier, stating that this is not fatal familial insomnia. I don't have a genetic history of this in my family, neither sporadic fatal insomnia. It's very clearly that it hit during the pitch of the side effects of this neurotoxic protocol. I experienced the whole episode of my attack by myself during the regimen and allowed it to enter my body to cross my blood-brain barrier, causing rapid damage and disturbance of my sleeping regulation and central nervous system. Since then, this constant 24/7 awaken/arousal never switched back to sleep mode anymore. I never have sleeping problem before this tragedy. This is not a disease. There's nothing needed to be taken out, killed, or to be inhibited, such as bacteria, virus, fungus in my brain. Instead, the damaged cells have to be replaced. It's not as simple as shutting the brain off using dangerous sleeping drugs that will make more damage. He would eventually reveal that the drug that made him like this was named ciprofloxacin. At first, he didn't reveal this because he said that he didn't want to get into politics and or cause issues for the company, but he did spill the beans, and it's not a shocker either, as ciprofloxacin has been noted to increase the risk of ruptures and tears in the blood vessels of certain people who take the drug, with the FDA warning it could cause permanent nerve damage and is known to sometimes cause brain/central nervous system and mental health side effects, from relatively mild symptoms like dizziness or insomnia to rare but more serious reactions like confusion, hallucinations, delirium, or seizures. These effects are recognized in FDA safety communications and in ciprofloxacin's prescribing information, even allegedly causing one patient, allegedly named Mateo Rojas, to become paralyzed from the waist down and experience severe mental health issues and go blind. The term for this reaction and the people who take it is called floxed, and there's a Facebook page documenting the people who have gone through this reaction in their body from allegedly taking this drug. Once reading up on all the risks, the negative side effects do pair up to the things that Ricard had mentioned in his videos, from the sensations he felt in his spine that felt like burning to the tingling sensations. It makes sense allegedly why he was adamant about it causing his sleeping issues, and the burning back sensations that he described make it so much more personal. I remember taking an antibiotic that at the time I didn't know I was allergic to. This one of course prescribed to me directly, and the first symptom I felt was a burning sensation on my entire back. It debilitated me so bad, I bought a cup of ice from Starbucks to pour it down the back of my shirt in order to cool the burning down. I cannot imagine feeling that every day. I too wanted to proceed taking the antibiotics, as it's a rule I knew you shouldn't break, but once those side effects kicked in, I knew I had to call a doctor to make sure I could safely stop. Devani Escobar. This is the last photo ever taken of her by her taxi driver. After a long night out with friends, she was never seen again. Devani Susana Escobar was 18, a law student in Nuevo León, Mexico, and her case became one of those stories that feels like it was built out of a single haunting image, a young woman standing alone in the middle of a highway at night, lit by headlights, as if she'd stepped out of the world for a brief moment, and then the world never let her step back in. On the night of April 8th into the early hours of April 9th of 2022, Devani went out to a party in the Monterrey/General Escobedo area with friends, taking a Didi there, the Mexican version of Uber. Sarai knew Devani for a couple of months now, and Yvonne met her for the first time that night. They hit up a store to get some liquor as they were planning to attend a party, and then ordered a Didi again to head to the party they agreed on going to. The driver's name was Juan David, dropping them off at this party at around 1 a.m. They ended up having good chemistry with the driver, so Yvonne exchanged WhatsApp info with Juan David in case they needed another ride home. And so they get off the car normally, encountering a group of guys heading to the exact same spot they were heading to, El Diamante, a private party venue, joining them into the party. 1:30 a.m. Through the CCTV footage, something strange happens. Devani can be seen walking out of El Diamante alone. Her friends are not present. 4 men can be seen catcalling her in the footage as she walks by. Then we see her go back inside the venue, partying into the morning. It was reported during this time she was crazy drunk and just out of control being goofy, locking herself inside a bathroom. They were causing issues at the venue, as she started crying to Yvonne for ditching her at the party. Yvonne, knowing her friend was just too drunk to be in public, called the Didi driver Juan David to come pick her friend up, but by then something had also occurred. 3 a.m. We see action on the CCTV. Someone is chasing Devani, appears to be male. She looks completely uncomfortable. Her friends luckily see this and come to her defense, but a group of guys quickly huddle around them, obstructing the view of what exactly is going on. At around 4 a.m., her Didi driver Juan David finally arrives to pick her up. She rushes into the taxi and they leave after a quick chat with Yvonne and that guy that was chasing her. though it is really hard to make out what exactly is going on. A while later, a CCTV farther down the road from the party venue reveals to us that they never actually went to her home to drop her off immediately. They were parked on a road just talking to each other. Then he drove towards the highway, and just before getting on it, Devani decides that she needs to get off, telling David to pull to the side. She proceeds to get out to the middle of the highway on top of the divider and just stares into the distance, zoning out, causing the taxi driver to be confused and take a picture of this 3-minute fiasco she was on to send to her friends, explaining why he couldn't complete the ride, and then he left, needing to earn money to live. He would go on to say that he felt guilty having to leave her there, but that it wasn't his full responsibility. He ended up texting Yvonne asking if Devani made it home safe. Her reply probably made him sick to his stomach. We still haven't found her. You may be asking, the highway has to have CCTV, right? And yeah, but it only captures her leaving the divider in the middle of the road, nobody else, almost getting hit, but then making it back to the sidewalk. Another CCTV camera captures her running towards a motel, looking within the restaurant building through the glass, and just acting strange. Is she trying to hide? It looks that way because she was gone into this corner, not being seen for 20 minutes. Then we see her one last time in grainy footage, walking away from the corner of the motel, never being seen again. So I guess her final photo is different than the last moments she was captured on CCTV, but that's the way the internet has framed the case so far. But I guess this CCTV footage could be her technical final moment ever being seen. Mario Escobar, her father, quickly came to the conclusion that it had to be the taxi driver Juan David, as he was the last person to see her alive, and pointing towards that CCTV footage where they were down the street from El Diamante venue, fighting, or it looked like just arguing about something, as evidence that she was groped and or assaulted by Juan David, and that it was the reason why she got off the car angrily and into the middle of the road, probably traumatized emotional response. A valid reaction if this were true, but Juan David did not take this and went to the media to defend himself from the accusations, giving them the story as he recalls in interviews, stating that the argument seen on CCTV wasn't about anything serious, but because Devani was irritated and drunk trying to fight him. Though she was a light girl, so he put up with it, wanting to get her home safely, simply asking her for an address he could take her to. He ends up texting Yvonne, but she didn't really know Devani like that, just telling him that he needs to get her away from the party as she was causing too much drama, explaining the prior shown CCTV footage of them chasing her down. She had become violent towards guest-goers, according to her friends. Authorities would eventually do a deeper investigation of the last place she was known to be at, Motel Nova Castilla, exploring the tank underneath the land of the motel. Looking down the water openings, they would eventually come across a face-down body deep within the water. The family would need to verify it was her though, but it had to be through clothing instead of actually seeing her, as she had already begun breaking down due to the place she had passed in being moist and hot. A lot of theories were at first put out. She had just been bringing negative attention, and a killer just so happened to be at the right place at the right time. Or it could have been a crooked police officer knowing he could get away with it and took advantage of that. But the most prominent theory explains that in her drunken rage, she had tripped over something, maybe the opening of the water tank, hit her head on the concrete, and passed out. Early on, the Nuevo León Attorney General's office publicly stated that Devani died from a head contusion, blunt force injury to the head, not done by another person, but by her tripping. There was a third-party, non-government forensic report commissioned by Devani Escobar's family, often described in coverage as a secondary autopsy, that claimed her head injuries were consistent with being inflicted by another person, i.e. multiple blows from different angles, also finding that she was most likely abused beforehand. The strangest part is that inside the tank opening that connects both tanks, they found her black purse and a face mask amongst other strange items like a piece of fabric. Officially, the final forensic conclusion that authorities publicly presented was Devani died from asphyxia by suffocation. Specifically, something blocked her nose or mouth. That result was announced in a press conference on July 18th, 2022 by the Mexico City Forensic Institute participating in the case. What's important, and why people still argue about it today, is that this final report was about the cause of death, not a complete, proven step-by-step account of what actually happened, and it explicitly did not settle who did it or the exact mechanism/timeline. It also contradicts the earlier Nuevo Leon prosecutor's initial public version that pointed to a severe head blow or accident scenario.